So, if you don't know about LUMCON and where we're at, you sort of keep driving south in Louisiana, and when the highway ends, that's where LUMCON is at. I like to say that we're the farthest thing south in Louisiana. That's not exactly true. Port Fourchon is a little bit further south than us. When I describe where LUMCON is at to people who are not from Louisiana, I said, when you look at a map of Louisiana, that area you don't know if it's water or land, we're right in the middle of that. And so we're located down in Cocodrie at the top of Terrebonne Bay. We are on a peninsula or a bayou of land, so to speak. And here's us from the air. We're actually located, let's see if I can get this to work. We're located right there. There's a LUMCON facility. Here's the end of the highway here. And we are outside the levee system, and between coastal loss of barrier islands, every year we experience an increasing level of flooding. I'll actually talk about that a little bit more, but we're sort of precariously perched out here at the end of the world. It used to be, when I was an undergraduate and went to LUMCON, the running joke was LUMCON was the only marine lab you could go in the world and never see water. And that's because we were surrounded in every direction by wetlands. And I remember coming back down for an interview for my position at LUMCON and being surprised about how much water I actually saw. From the tower at LUMCON now you can see the top of Terrebonne Bay. When I was an undergraduate there, you could not see water at all from the tower. So a lot of radical changes over just 20 to 30 years. Our mission is to promote and facilitate and conduct research and education collaborations among the Louisiana's universities, specifically in those areas that are relevant to the state and to the Gulf of Mexico. So wordy mission, as mission statements have the tendency to go. We like to think of our mission as connect, enrich, and transform, connecting marine scientists with each other, connecting students and educational opportunities across the state. We really thrive on collaboration. We figure we're smarter together than we are individually. Enrich, so this is enriching our communities through scientific knowledge, enriching students through unique educational experiences. And then lastly, our transform mission, which is our scientific mission, to be innovative and really, again, to address some of the most pressing issues that we have in this state. So we serve as the Marine Lab essentially for all 24 state or for public and private universities and colleges in the state, as well as the LCTCS system, the Community and Technical College system. In a lot of states, each university has its own Marine Lab. In the state of Louisiana, all the universities together have a single Marine Lab, which is LUMCON. We are a division of the Board of Regents, so we sit within the Board of Regents. I report to the regents themselves and the Commissioner of Higher Education. We basically serve as a service across the universities. In terms of our scientific program, we sort of work in 5 fundamental areas. One is to understand how human activities are changing our coast and our oceans, and that includes everything from hypoxia to hurricanes to storm frequencies to oil spills. You sort of run the gamut of the way that society and humans interact with the environment, and we're studying both the effects of that and how to mitigate those influences. We look a lot about how energy, carbon, nutrients, and things like that flow through natural systems. We do a lot of work on the diversity of life and maintaining that biodiversity. The relationship between the environment, between the biological, the chemical, and the physical environment. And then as well as a lot of work is focused on coastal loss and coastal restoration. And so those are sort of 5 targeted areas. And we have scientists, both in-house scientists as well as visiting scientists from across the universities and colleges that come to LUMCON to work in these areas. I took over as the executive director in 2016 after sort of LUMCON had a rough decade before with sort of steering the wheel and getting LUMCON on a growth trajectory. And so between my first year was sort of healing, my first couple years were sort of denoted by healing and stabilizing LUMCON. Over the last year, we've spent a lot of time growing LUMCON. And as we move forward into 2020, we're really looking towards innovation, really setting LUMCON as a leader in innovative education, innovative science, and just innovative operations. So since 2016, we've had a lot of huge successes. We're sort of the best kept secret in the state. We've grown or added several programs that includes dive operations. We're the only research dive operations group in the entire state. Environmental monitoring, as well as university education, community college programs, vessel operations. There's essentially not a part of LUMCON that we've not grown over the last few years. Our budget has actually grown in 2020. Our budget is going to be about $13.5 million, largely from the grants and that both the educators and the scientists have written that have brought those revenues into LUMCON. Faculty, we've grown our science faculty. We've added 6 new additional faculty members in the last 3 years. And one that I'm particularly proud of, in 2017, we saw approximately 3,500 K through 12 students at the Marine Lab. We're one of the largest informal science educators in the state. In 2019, that had risen by almost 50% to well over 5,000 students. And we do that with a staff currently of 3. So we have a very active educational program. And in fact, the woman who oversees that, the Associate Director for Education Outreach, Mark Conover, actually was awarded the Informal Science Educator of the Year award from the Louisiana Science Teachers Association. So again, another just speaks to the quality of our educational programs at LUMCON. What I really want to focus a little bit more on today is something that I believe we're the best at, which is marine operations. LUMCON manages the last research vessels, scientific research vessels in the Gulf of Mexico. We are, as my marine superintendent Joe told me, he goes, we are boat people. We have a passion for it, we're very good at it, and we're unique in the Gulf of Mexico for it. We were recently awarded from the National Science Foundation regional class research, to be the operator for regional class research vessel. This is the RV Gilbert Mason. Coincidentally, they're actually being built by Gulf Island Fabrication in Houma. There are 3 of them. The first was awarded to Oregon State University. The second one was awarded to University of Rhode Island, and then the last one was awarded to us, LUMCON, and University of Southern Mississippi in collaboration. It is named after Gilbert Mason, who is a civil rights advocate from Mississippi who staged a series of wade-ins. We believe having a research vessel dedicated to the legacy of someone who tried to increase access to our coast and our beaches and our oceans was something to be heralded in a new research vessel's name. These are state-of-the-art. They're 199 foot long. They will be the flagships of the U.S. research fleet. Having one of them both in the Gulf of Mexico and having LUMCON and the state of Louisiana co-operating this vessel is an important thing for our coast. That'll come offline in 2023. And with the first year of operations, scientific operations being 2024. This ship will allow us to do science in the Gulf of Mexico that we've never been able to do before. It'll access parts of the Gulf of Mexico that are beyond the scope of our current research vessels, access depths that we currently can't access, stay out to sea much longer. Also have a variety of larger scientific equipment that we simply can't fit on our smaller research vessels. This is a huge win for us. Our fleet right now is anchored by the RV Acadiana at 53 foot. It is primarily an educational ship. So we have a general rule that Starting in about 6th grade, we can have students come out on our LUMCON vessel. So everybody who comes to LUMCON has to go out on a boat. So if you come visit me, I will take you out on a boat. We can take about 20 to 30 students out on that. We take them out into Terrebonne Bay. We do trawls. We do a variety of, and let them see what it's like to do science at sea. When I've talked to students I talked to adults who came to LUMCON when they were kids on field trips, and I asked them what was the most memorable thing. They were like, well, when we got to go out on the Acadiana. So it's a really important thing. It does sometimes conduct scientific missions. It spent about 3 months off the coast of Florida right before Michael, so all the work will have to be redone, doing coastal surveys and mapping of the seafloor. Of course, with Michael, everything got moved around a bit, so they're going to have to go redo that. Hopefully they'll hire us again to do another 3 months of work for them. So the pride of our fleet is the Rv Pelican. She's around 120 feet. Most of the major scientific advances, most of what we know about the Gulf of Mexico occurred on the back deck of the Pelican. This includes monitoring the annual hypoxic zone that occurs off the coast. This includes surveying our fisheries. The Pelican was the first research vessel on the scene at the BP oil spill. It was on site, beginning doing and monitoring, tracking the oil plume within 24 hours. This is an amazing ship. She is near the end of her life. She has had a tremendous economic impact on our region. The state of Louisiana actually purchased her. She's very unique among the U.S. research fleet. Most of them are paid for. Most of the research vessels are paid for by the National Science Foundation, by the Navy. The state of Louisiana paid for the Pelican to be built in the 80s because they understood that there was a dire need to have that kind of research asset in Louisiana, working on the scientific questions that are important to this state's vitality. And so in that time, though, in direct sort of economic impact into LUMCON, it's returned to 47 to 1 on that original investment. So, and that's not money that came from the state. We have a variety of researchers who want to do work across the Gulf of Mexico who will come in and rent our ship, utilize our crew, knowing that they're the best, and do that work in the Gulf of Mexico. So we're bringing federal and other state funds into Louisiana. She is near the end of her life. She's got about 4 more years on her life, and so we're currently in the process of raising funds to replace her. We are bringing the RCRV about the same time, but again, these are sort of fundamentally different ships. The regional class research vessel, I always describe it like this. If the regional class research vessel, the Gilbert Mason, is an 18-wheeler, the Pelican is a pickup truck, and if you need to move a couch across town, you're going to call your friend with the pickup truck. You're not going to call your friend with the 18-wheeler. And so in Louisiana, we need a pickup truck. We need the same boat that's going to monitor our hypoxia, monitor our fisheries, monitor the things that are important to our state. The RCRV, a great ship, but it's going to be across the Gulf of Mexico, across the Caribbean. We need something that's focused on the issues that are important for Louisiana. We've went through a preliminary design process, so these are the beginning drafts of our replacement for the Pelican. We're hoping, again, to secure funding this year and eventually hopefully begin the finalized design process by the end of 2020, and with any luck, maybe start building the ship in 2021. The Pelican, I don't know if I'm going to make a political misstep here, because I know that when people from out of the state come in and make any comment about LSU football, it's always a disaster, but I'm going to try it anyway, because I really want to portray why the Pelican is important. It is culturally the Pelican is culturally to LUMCON what the LSU football team is to LSU in the state. It is that important to us. It is our bell tower. And so we're thinking about what's going to happen to the Pelican once we retire her. Now, there are 2 different lives of sort of second lives for old research vessels. They get sold off for scrap metal, or they go to other places who have less discerning qualifications on their vessels. Neither of those seem like a fitting second life for the Pelican. We're actually going to keep her, we're going to have her dry docked at our new maritime campus in Houma, and she'll live on as an educational exhibit as well as a training vessel for the LCTCS system. So she'll remain in our fleet, but not as an active research vessel. So I mentioned the new campus, and I want to segue into this sort of major growth for LUMCON, and I think for our region as well. So when I started as the executive director, my parish and the surrounding parishes were in trouble. The unemployment rate in Terrebonne Parish when I first started was 5.8, in Lafourche 5.3, and in St. Mary 7.9%. That was compared to the national average at the time of 4.2. Unemployment rates were in my region were some of the highest in the nation. Likewise, when I first came on, Houma-Thibodaux area had the nation's 4th worst economy. 4th worst. There was also a higher rate of mortgage delinquencies compared to any other region in the US. That was what I came on to as a Marine director. And perhaps I should have been thinking about what a marine biologist should be thinking about, fishes, invertebrates, things like that. But as the executive director of LUMCON, I thought we need to get in this game. We need to figure out how we can be a better community partner. So that's where this idea started from. When it came in, the TEDA, the Terrebonne Economic Development Authority, had recently launched a 5-year plan, and I'll say this for Matt, it didn't mention LUMCON once in that 5-year plan, not as an asset for the region, and I'm like, and Matt and I both came on seeing this and thinking that's something that has to be addressed as well. Because we can speak directly to several of these. 2 of the areas identified for economic growth, marine production, support services, and coastal restoration are within LUMCON's expertise. The need to create a culture, programs, and support infrastructure for entrepreneurship. Again, we're focused on innovation and novelty at LUMCON. That's, again, within our wheelhouse. Building amenities that would attract and retain talent. We maintain the Gulf of Mexico's largest research fleet. Work together to strengthen the environment. Again, this is part of LUMCON's mission. And continued cooperation between several different entities, which again, collaboration is in our mission. This was in their report. This is what LUMCON does. And apparently that may be the end of my presentation. Where do we go? There we go. So this began the Houma Maritime Campus idea in partnership with Fletcher Community College primarily, but you'll see it now incorporates a lot of different partnerships. It is essentially a Board of Regents initiative with the Louisiana Community Technical College Technical and Community College System. I never get that acronym quite right. So the idea is that it will leverage the expertise, increase marine and coastal science infrastructure, focus on workforce training, develop opportunities in marine coastal research, marine and coastal and restoration research and education, and build up partnerships. It is in one part a workforce training facility in a variety of different disciplines, but it's also an R&D area. Think of it as a workforce training combined with a research park. Like I said, this is a collaboration of many now. It includes Louisiana's community technical colleges, strongly with Fletcher and SLCC. Also now is including Delgado, Nunez, North Shore, Soella. This is, again, support from the Louisiana Board of Regents. Includes University of Louisiana Lafayette now, Nichols, LUMCON, as well as TEDA and the South Central Development Commission as well. So we have a lot of partners coming in, and we're now beginning to build up the corporate partnerships as well. And we're also looking to incorporate more regional, state, and federal agencies in these partnerships in addition. So we have right now 5 areas of focus, which will be consistently reassessed. We have a very strong mission, but we want to be adaptable and flexible with regard to the focal areas of the campus. So to begin off for the first few years, our 5 focal areas are advances in vessel and port operations, innovations in environmental monitoring technology. We need to be able to monitor what's going on our coast much more cost effectively than we do now. It takes a lot of money. For each of the environmental monitoring stations that LUMCON puts out, it's $40,000. We need to get that to $40 so we can put out a lot more than we currently do. Development of a vibrant workforce in maritime fields. There's a lot of expertise in HOMA. HOMA, in terms of our technological and our engineering expertise, is almost unrivaled in the maritime industry. We can begin to apply that to new sectors. Security, including cybersecurity, important vessel operations. A lot of attention now going into cybersecurity, much less being focused on cybersecurity, important vessel operations. And considering how much remote operations of vessels and how strongly important vessel operations have went to digital, from inventory to operations to everything, cybersecurity is a very important aspect. And then technological solutions to coastal and marine issues. Again, the idea of this campus is to take engineering and technological and computational expertise and blend that with coastal and marine expertise. So the importance for LUMCON is, I want to build LUMCON up, grow up our international reputation as a leading marine research and education consortium. And so our expanded facilities at this new campus will allow us to do that. So to give you an idea of where this is in Homa, and this is here in the port of Terrebonne. If you're familiar with Homa at all, this is a lost ship here, and then this is Gulf Island Fabrication here, and the new campus is here. It was previously the Louisiana Marine Petroleum Institute, is now at the only thing out there on this about approximately 30 acres is the SLCC Maritime Training Facility. That will change the next few years. Here's the overall campus plan. The only building that currently exists here is A. LUMCON will take up a third of the campus with two major facilities. This is B here on this map is Blue Works, which I'll talk to about in a second, and then our new Marine Operations Center as well. C, I believe LCTCS has started to receive a bit of capital outlay to bring on a new maritime training facility there. Yes. We want to provide new education and collaboration space aligned with our mission, a place for R&D to occur. This brings on LUMCON's new initiative called Blue Works. So let's take a step back before I begin talking about Blue Works and talk about how do we create a place for innovation to occur. What would that look like? Well, we need a place where collaboration occurs not just between academic, agency, and business experts, but between citizens, students, and those in the previous categories. So we want horizontal collaboration, but we want vertical collaboration as well, realizing that expertise occurs at multiple levels. We need a place where science is open, that anybody can engage. And we don't have a lot of facilities for that currently. We want some place where money is never a barrier, where STEM is available for everyone. We want a place where the theme is inclusivity and awe. That's the kind of place that inspires. A place where there's renewed appreciation for our coast, renewed appreciation for our oceans, where technological and where we can turn ideas that are technological and engineering ideas into reality. Turn innovative ideas into something tangible, where innovation becomes reality. So with that, we can turn that into a set of core values for this new building that would both work in its design, how the building was designed, how the building looks and feels, but the programs within it. So they include interaction and visibility, flexibility, a space for discovery, that it'd be high performing, productive, efficient. Again, there's this integration and this idea that permeates all of LUMCON's activities, that we connect, enrich, and transform. So the mission of BlueWorks is to build capacity, knowledge, and passion at the intersection of blue science and technology, to find both innovative solutions, but to train the next generation of innovators. This comes out of the idea that one of the meetings that I had when I first came to Southern Louisiana was with one of our local shipbuilders, and they said, when I hire engineers, they're never from Louisiana. I hire experts from out of the state and I bring them in. Why aren't we training our engineers here? Well, one of the problems is we're not inspiring children to be engineers, to be interested in technology, to provide them that inspiration from an early age. We have a pipeline issue. So a very important part of BlueWorks was to begin to have programs that inspire and connect with children around coding, engineering, fabrication, those types of areas. This is our design for BlueWorks. We'll break ground sometime this coming year. This will be at the new Maritime campus, and it is that mission that I just spoke with, those core values that's embodied in this building. It was designed by Eskew, Dumez, and Ripple out of New Orleans, a very great architectural firm that has won a lot of awards for their buildings. We said, if you're not designing a building that's going to win yet another architectural award, then you're not in the right headspace. And I think they've really delivered. This captures the excitement and the innovation that we hope to see in this side of this building. It incorporates a variety of spaces. There'll be fabrications labs, there'll be a 3D print lab, there will be a robotics lab, a tech lab, there'll be educational spaces, there'll be spaces for 2 new research faculty is there as well. Think of it as a 1 part children's museum, 1 part R&D tech center, and then 1 part just an open place for people to come and hang around. My hope is that as a scientist, when I go into BlueWorks and I have a project, something that I need to build for the research that I need to do that I cannot purchase off the shelf, that I'll go in there and there'll be a high school student hanging around, or maybe it'll be someone who's retired from the offshore industry. And I'll say, once you all come join me and help me build this, they'll become part of my team. That's what I envision. I want a very strong citizen science component to this and a very, very meaningful connection with students in my area. We'll have library space, meeting spaces. There'll be a 3-story exhibition space as well. It's going to be a really lively place. And we've already started funding and thinking about the programs that are going to occur in that when we hopefully open up BlueWorks at the end of 2022, early 2023. Some mock-ups of the inside here. You can see the 3-story exhibition space. Everything is on display, glass front labs, so that everything is open. It's essentially, it was described to me by the architects as a beehive on display. We want everything to be, all the activities to be on display and exhibit, and also feel open. Should not go without mention that it's also a sheltered base of retreat and operations for LUMCON. This was Tropical Storm Cindy at LUMCON. Tropical Storm Cindy. If you don't remember, Tropical Storm Cindy was a tropical storm, first of all, not even a hurricane, and it also hit on the border of Louisiana and Texas. This is what happens to LUMCON. This happens through a variety of complex issues related to coastal loss, but also the Morganza levee system is we're outside the Morganza levee system now as well. In the last couple of decades, the number of days of high water at LUMCON's Marine Center have increased. These are what we have 2 levels of flooding. We have operational floods, which close LUMCON's operations, and we have nuisance flooding, which are lots flooded, but everybody has to go to work anyway. We all own white boots. We park out by the highway, which is about a foot higher. We park our cars out there and we wade in to the Marine Lab. As you can see, whether we use a couple of different models here, whether it's the green or blue, the number of days, especially since about 2012, has been steadily increasing. We see nuisance flooding at the Marine Lab now somewhere between 40 to 60 days on average. So we closed down for Tropical Storm Cindy for a week. We closed down. Barry, we got really lucky. This is how good we are with dealing with flooding. We got 6.5 foot of water during Barry. 6.5 foot. Barry hit on a Friday afternoon, late into Friday evening into Saturday. A core team returned to LUMCON on Sunday afternoon just to do assessment. We began cleanup on Monday. We're open for operations and ready back to normal operations on Wednesday. So we're very good about keeping our time minimal when we're down for storms. Having a backup place inside the levee system further inland that we can bring staff together, or when a much larger hurricane hits, that some places a base of operations for the cleanup and recovery of our main center is very vital to us. I've talked about how we're bringing, we're acquiring a new regional class research vessel, the RV Gilbert Mason. We need a new vessel operations center for that. We have a harbor at Cocodrie at our main facility that's just big enough to fit our current research fleet. As Matt said once to me, I can bring the RV Gilbert Mason into our harbor once, but not twice. And so we need a larger port, and we also just need generally a marine operations center. We rent warehouse space in Houma. We're equipped to deal with a large research fleet in the way that we need to be. And so we start the design process of the Marine Operations Center this year and hopefully break ground on that next year. That include machine shops, crew quarters, a variety of warehouse space. It'll provide just a much better platform for us to outrun the Gulf of Mexico's largest research fleet. And like I said, this will provide the new base of operations for our regional class research vessel. So again, I'm really excited about this Houma Maritime campus. I've talked about LUMCON's activities, but I haven't really talked about the variety of other activities that are going there. But in terms of this, again, just to wrap up here, we're supporting the economic growth of our parish, specifically hitting key points in this economic development plan. We're specifically targeting the areas that we feel are needed in the state. Again, blending this technological engineering computational space with coastal and marine issues that are relevant to our state. But we want to attract, retain, and build up talent. And that's a key part of this, starting with kindergartners and moving into certificate programs and to bachelor's degrees. And we've had an economic impact statement. I'll leave this as my last slide here, that there's a real economic benefit from this whole campus, and Blue Works specifically. You know, the construction alone is going to generate $220 million worth of spending in my region. $125 million in saved earnings for LUMCON, which is huge for me. $470 million in total economic output. I mean, these numbers are huge. That's $500 million. 337 new jobs in the parish just from the construction activities of the new campus alone. Another $8 million in saved productivity. That's just for me closing down. So this is huge. And I think it also sort of says LUMCON's trying to be an innovator and trying to say marine labs across the world have done things the same way that they've done for 200 years. They look very much the same. They study invertebrates, they do things like this, but my vision for LUMCON is that it's Marine Lab 2.0. We're going to get in the game. We're going to have a bigger societal importance. We're going to have a bigger regional impact than we've had. We're going to be better community partners, and that's where, for me, that's where Marine Lab should be. And I'll leave it there, and I'll take any questions you might have. Thank you. It's a mix of both. With the total price tag for the replacement Pelican replacement vessel is between $30 to $35 million. Our official request is for $36 million to deal with increases in tariff prices on steel, increased expenses by the time that we sort of get into the shipbuilding process. We've asked the state for some of those funds. We believe that the revenues and the settlements that came out of the BP oil spill to the state should, this is an appropriate spending of those because it increases the scientific infrastructure of the state. We need to be prepared in the case of a major hurricane, an oil spill. Those events we need to have the research capacity to understand where the oil plume's going. What are the offshore effects? We cannot afford to lose that as a state asset. We've also been working on foundational and private support as well to raise the additional funds. I will also accept checks. So yeah, no amount's too small. So the question was about the current status of the hypoxia zone in the Gulf. It is an ongoing and continued problem. That it fluctuates in size from year to year, but there's no indication that it is declining. It's an annual occurrence that always occurs. And until policy initiatives are put in place that regulate the use, of fertilizers and things like that on our farmlands, then it's not likely to go away. It requires a very integrated approach up and down the Mississippi River Delta that involves coastal states with our heartland states. It is, which means that it's a very complex issue. And of course, we need to be able to put those policies in place in a way that also, I'm a very pragmatic person, right? So these issues, the things that we face have to be done with thinking about the livelihoods of our communities and our families, our friends. And so, it's easy to say as a scientist, this is what we have to do. It's simply stop using fertilizers. But I realize that there's an economic impact of that, and we have to be careful about how we proceed when we're talking about people's livelihoods. But again, it's a complex issue, but it needs to be done because that also affects Louisiana's fisheries, right? We're affecting livelihoods here.
I didn't catch when you said Rv Mason would be here starting on projects, and what do you see the top 3 or 4 initial projects that the Mason will be working on?
That's a great question. So the question was about when does the RV Gilbert Mason go into operation, and what are the first sets of projects that we envision being on the new research vessel. So like I said, they're all being built at Gulf Island Fabrication. There are parts of the RV Gilbert Mason that actually exist now, which is really exciting. They're not big parts, but there's parts nonetheless. It will come offline, come out of the shipyard in 2023 at some point. We're not clear where it is. It is the last of the 3 ships to be built. And so we're not quite clear when it's going to come offline. They don't go into a year of sea trials where we'll run sort of some scientific activities on it, but they're sort of really trying out the boat and its capability, working out the kinks, anything that it may need to go back into the shipyard for. The first full year of vessel operations for science will be 2024 on its current schedule. In terms of the type of science that we envision occurring on that, I think one of the major initiatives is study the loop current. So there's a major current that goes through the Gulf of Mexico. It's shaped like it's a loop, as the name would suggest. We don't know quite a lot about that. And one of the problems is that because it encompasses the entire Gulf of Mexico, and if our research vessel, the Pelican, is limited to about a week and a half at sea, the RV Gilbert Mason can be out to sea 21 days or more. And so you can imagine you now can access almost all the Gulf loop in a single research expedition. Obviously, sort of Gulf-wide sampling of our fisheries to understand what the Gulf of Mexico fisheries are. We're going to be able to do deep water work with remote operated vehicles in the way that we can't now. So there's a lot of opportunity there. So one of the things, so pardon me, let me repeat the question. The question was, the first question was about the remaining BP oil spill funds. I'm not clear about the particular pots of money or the budgets for those, so I can't comment on that. The second question was about the lingering effects of the BP oil spill. It's a bit complicated to answer that question, which I know is what a scientist would always say. One is because we didn't have a lot of great baseline data of what the environment looked like before the oil spill. And in fact, it was one of the major data gaps and issues we had after the oil spill. This was particularly true with offshore. So in some regards, I think it's a mixed bag. Some things seem to have recovered quite quickly. Some things took a moderate amount of time to recover and have recovered. Other things, not so much. For example, the area right around the wellhead and the Deepwater Horizon wreckage site is still a pretty degraded site. And a few kilometers out in every direction, the deep sea floor is still pretty contaminated and in not very good shape. So, yeah. This next year, because it'll be 10 years, there's major initiatives from all the research that was funded. There's a major synthesis activities going. So next year what we'll see a lot of reports, a lot of papers that are being published that synthesize all the research activities that have happened over the last 10 years that really will address the kinds of questions that you're asking.
But the impacts expected to occur like multiple decades. I don't know how.
Again, I think it depends a lot upon the particular ecosystem and the particular organism. For some, absolutely, the impact will be decades. For some things, much less than that.
I think is it possible for you to schedule coming back next year about this time, Christmas time, and give us an overview what these reports?
Sure, I'll do you one better. I will invite a scientist back who has a much better and intimate, who's actually worked in these issues. Yes. Yes.
But she's better looking than you are, I'm sure.
That's true of all of my faculty. They're all better looking than I am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.